During Sex Week at Ohio State University, one event is asking students to thank their abortion providers by sending them Valentine's Day cards. Students at a different school are being separated into lab groups based on their identities, and the Department of Education has opened up another investigation. We have all of the details on those stories and more. I'm Abigail Streetman, and this is Campus Countdown. In our number 3 story of the week, UC professor offers to assign students lab groups based on their identities. A computer science and engineering professor at the University of California, San Diego, assigned students a Google form for his winter 2022 class, Software Tools and Techniques Laboratory. According to a PDF file obtained by Campus Reform, the assignment includes a section where students choose their identity so that Professor Politz can assign lab groups accordingly. The survey was assigned to help the teaching team organize the course, but the assignment was taken down when Campus Reform reached out to Professor Politz for comment. The form read, "Sometimes people like to form groups with others that share an aspect of their identity. If you would like us to try to form your lab group with others that share a similar characteristic, please select all of the attributes of your identity or interests that you might like to have in common with others in your group." Professor Politz's assignment further states that the list below is in no way comprehensive, and feel free to write in other identities or interests that we might consider. We will make our best effort at this, but due to a number of constraints, we can't guarantee anything. We won't share with students which characteristics, if any, we use to create the groups, as if students aren't going to be able to tell. The options provided were women, non-binary, LGBTQ+, Hispanic/Latinx, Black, Native American, first-generation college student, transfer student, international student, parent/non-traditional student, veteran, nervous/apprehensive about coding, any group is fine / I don't care. One student enrolled in this class, who wished to remain anonymous, spoke to Campus Reform about having to complete the survey. They said that there's a high demand for so-called safe spaces. I believe the instructor tried to protect certain identities so that they are not intimidated by other non-minority people or feel alone. But this does not prepare those students for real-world software development environments. When you reduce people to only a certain class of society, you effectively reduce their networking to only themselves, and you remove this networking ladder that could otherwise be used to climb the socioeconomic hierarchy. As a science major myself, I have experienced broad diversity in each of my classes, especially labs, and one of the most exciting things about being in college is getting to meet people from all over the world and make those valuable connections. How do we expect to learn the key socialization skills that we need when professors like this are separating and dividing students based on superficial characteristics? Professor Politz teaches computer and science engineering classes, but he also taught a class with another professor called Race, Gender, and Computing. According to UCSD, the course explores the challenges of diversity, equity, and inclusion in computing and technology through an introduction and analysis of various social constructs and their impact on not only computing-related organizations, but also the technologies derived from and the people affected by them. The course satisfies the college's diversity, equity, and inclusion requirement, as stated on UCSD's website. It says, "A knowledge of diversity, equity, and inclusion is required of all candidates for a bachelor's degree who begin their studies at UC San Diego in lower division standing in fall 2011 or thereafter, or an upper standing division in fall 2013 or thereafter." For a school so focused on diversity and inclusion, separating students by identity seems like the exact opposite of what they would be promoting. But it seems like this is becoming a norm. This is only the most recent example of colleges encouraging division among students. Last year, both Western Washington University and American University introduced designated housing areas that were specifically for Black students. As Morgan Freeman once said, "Making race a bigger issue than it needs to be is the problem." In our number 2 story of the week, thank abortion providers during Sex Week, one student group tells classmates. Here with all of the details on that story is Campus Reform correspondent Emily Sturge. Take it away, Emily.
Thanks, Abby. An event at Ohio State University is asking students to make Valentine's Day cards for abortion providers during this year's Sex Week. The Valentine's for Abortion Providers event, organized by student advocates for sexual health awareness, took place on February 16th and 18th and gave students the opportunity to thank abortion providers in Ohio and Texas for the valuable work they do for reproductive rights. Senior Director for Media Relations Benjamin Johnson told Campus Reform that the event is organized by students and received no funding from student fees. Johnson also acknowledged the school's commitment to supporting student organizations' free speech. Sex Week is an annual student event sponsored by various groups to highlight different topics and engage in different educational activities regarding the topic of sex. Fox News reported earlier this week that the Department of Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies and the College of Social Work have financially supported this year's Sex Week. To kick off these events, student advocates for sexual health awareness leadership hosted a conversation discussing the detrimental effects on youth that teaching abstinence has in high school sex ed. Skylar Baylor, dubbed Pink Manta Ray, headlined the opening night and preached gentle masculinity. Baylor is a former Harvard University swimmer and was the first transgender athlete to compete in any sport on an NCAA Division I men's team, according to the athlete's website. This event will be conducted in partnership with the undergraduate student government. Other notable events include an exhibition fair where students can taste test lube, be roped in to learn about trans-affirming sex toys, and participate in a workshop that teaches the fun side of sex through kinks including bondage, dominance, submission, fetish, and more. The tradition of Sex Week is not new and is not exclusive to Ohio State University. As Valentine's Day nears, colleges and universities consistently try to frisk up the social calendar by hosting a variety of sex-related events and programs. As recently reported by Campus Reform, Wentworth Institute of Technology recently hosted self-proclaimed sex educators to teach students how to achieve the female orgasm. And in 2019, Campus Reform reported that the University of Tennessee spent $105,000 on Sex Week expenditures over a 6-year period. Sex-positive culture has already led this country down a dark path. Students should be learning about parenting techniques and how to raise their family or do their taxes, not about sex toys. They should be encouraged to find a loving and happy relationship and get married before having children, but instead of teaching them self-respect, colleges would rather bend their knees to the left and allow these disgusting behaviors. Back to you, Abby.
In our number one story of the week, the Department of Education investigates alleged anti-Semitism in class lectures and course materials. The U.S. Department of Education has opened an investigation into a Title VI complaint that was filed last year by the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights Under Law. The complaint was filed on behalf of 2 anonymous Jewish students at Brooklyn College's Mental Health Counseling Master's Degree program. These students alleged that they experienced severe and persistent harassment by peers and professors who had made anti-Semitic remarks. According to the students, one Brooklyn professor even claimed that Eastern European Jews who immigrated to America have become the oppressors. The Department of Education's website claims that Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects people from discrimination on the basis of color, national origin, or race in programs or activities that receive federal financial assistance. The Brandeis Center's complaint reads that in class lectures and course materials, professors have maligned Jews on the basis of race and ethnic identity by advancing the narrative that all Jews are white and privileged and therefore contribute to the systemic oppression of people of color. In February 3rd press release, the Brandeis Center stated that such incidents were part of a pattern of anti-Semitic harassment in the program. Relegating Jewish students into white-only categories occurred multiple times in the program, stated the press release. Richard Petrus, a Brooklyn College spokesperson, denounced anti-Semitism in his statement to Campus Reform, saying that Brooklyn College unequivocally denounces anti-Semitism in any form and does not tolerate it on campus. While the college cannot comment on ongoing investigations, it is committed to working cooperatively and fully with the U.S. Department of Education. In October of 2021, the American Jewish Committee reported that a quarter of American Jews had been targets of anti-Semitism in the previous 12-month period. The investigation adds to a growing list of discriminatory practices that have been found on college campuses. The Department of Education is also investigating American University currently for an alleged Title VI violation. And in December last year, Northeastern University and Boston College co-hosted a debate in which they explicitly prohibited white students from competing. The blatantly discriminatory practices that have been implemented at many institutions around the country are finally being called into question, and hopefully we will see real action being taken against these institutions. Students and faculty should feel more empowered than ever to speak up against situations such as these. When colleges try to separate students based on race or identity, it teaches them that discrimination is okay if the minority benefits from it. But in reality, we know that it is never okay, and we must not allow them to bully us into silence. And now for my favorite segment, the woke tweet of the week. Last week, amid Whoopi Goldberg's controversial remarks about the Holocaust, Yale University philosophy professor Jason Stanley tweeted the claim that, according to Hitler, Jews weren't an inferior race. Hitler didn't even regard Jewish people as human persons. This is not quite the American notion of racism. The comment quickly drew criticism from historian Tarek Cyril-Lamar, a United States Holocaust scholar at the United States Holocaust Museum. He commented on Stanley's tweet, "Don't mistake your own categorizations and their consistency for Nazism's way of thinking. Sorry, but you're really wrong here." He added, "In Mein Kampf, Hitler calls Jews both a Volk and a Rasse, explicitly. There are important issues re Hitler's and Nazis' terminology, add art for instance, for more inconsistencies, but your overly neat distinction here flies in the face of serious scholarship." Campus Reform managing editor Zachary Marshall recently published a great editorial in which he argues that while Jews existed outside and beneath humanity, according to the Nazi regime, it makes for problematic analysis to interpret European events from 1933 to 1945 as if cultural conditions across time and nations are always identical to American social unrest in 2022. I think this is an excellent point. Too many Americans today think that the world is synonymous to America, when in reality it is not so simple. Stanley's remarks come on the heels of the controversy surrounding Whoopi Goldberg, who was recently suspended from The View after similarly claiming that the Holocaust was not about race, but about man's inhumanity to man. Daily Wire editor emeritus Ben Shapiro, who observes Orthodox Judaism, responded to Whoopi's comments by quoting Hitler's Mein Kampf, in which he wrote, "Is not their very existence founded on one great lie, that they are a religious community, where in reality they are a race?" I don't know, it sounds like Hitler's referring to them as a race. Hitler famously also called Jews parasites and also denied Jews human status after clarifying that they are a race, writing, "The Jews are undoubtedly a race, but they are not human." Our history teachers really need to do better. That's all we have for you this week. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to leave a like down below and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow along with all of the campus craziness at Campus Reform on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm Abigail Streetman. Thanks for watching Campus Countdown.